this is a webinar. Let's not waste time. Let's get into it because it's just for 1 hour, and I've got a lot to share, and I'm sure you have a lot of questions as well. Now, before we begin, I want to do a poll. All right. So first and foremost, I'm going to lower all your hands first, and then so that just in case you have a question, you can raise it as well. So let's do this poll first. All right. First and foremost, the question is very easy. Which agile frameworks, practices, toolkits, processes are you familiar with? All right. So I'm launching the poll right now. Okay. You know what? Let's do this one. How much knowledge do you have in SAFe? Okay, that's the poll. All right. I'm launching it right now. How much knowledge do you have in SAFe? Okay, so I just want to know the audience better so that I'll be mindful of them and make this webinar more effective for you. Okay, so all right, 72% of you have voted. Please request all of you to vote. This will really help us during this session and make it more effective and meaningful for you. 82% have voted. Come on, come on. Almost there, 100%. Keep going. People who haven't voted, please. It's a very simple question. I just want to know how much knowledge, not experience. I'm not talking about experience. I'm just talking about knowledge, right? How much knowledge do you have in SAFe? Right, I can see few people are an expert. Perfect, I like it. 3% of you, 3% of you say you are a 4. 69% of you are new to SAFe. All right, and there are a couple of people in between as well. So 88% have voted. I'll give you 10 more seconds. 10, 9, 8. All right, I don't want to count anymore. Go, 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 go. Anyone more? Anyone else want to vote? Okay, I'm gonna close the poll right now. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. I'm gonna share the results as well so you can see the results. Around 69% of you are new to SAFe. All right, and just being mindful of that. And there are a few people who are an expert. That is fantastic. That is great because your thoughts will really help us as well. But you are muted by default, by the way, just in case you didn't realize. But if you have a question, do let me know. Okay, please raise your hand. But there is a question answer box for you where you can put all your questions. We will try and answer all the questions at the end of the day. Okay. So this is the first question I wanted you to, I wanted to check, based on the audience. So around, I would say 30% of you, okay, around 30% of you have got some knowledge of SAFe. You are familiar with SAFe, but 69% of you are totally new to SAFe. Okay, perfect. Now, the next question I want to know is, how much knowledge do you have in DA, Disciplined Agile? All right, I'm launching the poll again. So this is the second question. How much knowledge do you have in Disciplined Agile? Okay, 73% have voted. Come on. Okay, okay, the numbers are going up. Great, great, great. Please give me your thoughts. Don't worry, it's all anonymous. I don't know who is voting, so don't worry. Okay. Again, 3% of you are an expert in DA. Fantastic. This is fabulous. Great. But there are quite a few of you who are not familiar with Agile or DA at all. Okay, so okay, 76% have voted. I'm gonna close 79%. Good, good. If we can, few more people can come in, chime in. How much knowledge do you have in DA? Okay, I'm gonna close the poll now. 1, 2, 3. Gone. Okay, sharing the results. 57% of you say you're new to DA. All right, 27% of you are you have heard the word DA. Probably you are kind of familiar with it, right? But there are a few people who have knowledge or decent knowledge or good knowledge or very good knowledge of PA. Okay, great. This helps me because I can understand the audience better. Okay, so thank you for the poll, and let's get going with our presentation. So, but before we get into the details, I need to thank ProThoughts for conducting this webinar so that it's useful for everyone. So this is about me. My name is Kumaresh Krishnamoorthy. I am based out of Toronto in Canada. And that's my LinkedIn ID in case you want to connect with me. You're most welcome. And about me, this is a very, very brief introduction about me. So I am BE, Bachelor of Computers. I did my computer engineering long back. And I'm PMP and BA certified. So that was the foundation for my journey in management. So to be honest, I started my career as a hardcore developer, C, C++, Unix, Java, Oracle, you name it, I was there. And it was very interesting for me because I just had to focus on my work, nothing else. And then I moved on to becoming a technical architect. Now things changed slightly because now I had to manage people, but from the technical side. I always wondered one thing, to be very honest with you. The question which bothered me for a very long time was, why do managers earn more than me, right? Now that was a burning question because I was the one who was doing all the work. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock at night, I was doing the work, but managers used to just pick up the phone and ask for status. Okay, tell me what's going on. What is the status? Did you finish it or not, right? So I always wondered, what exactly do they do? And that burning question made me read this big book, which makes you sleep. Which is that book? PMBOK, PMBOK, Project Management Body of Knowledge, right? So I started reading that book. I fell asleep a few times, but honestly, I started getting interested in management. I realized that project management is not easy and it has a lot of challenges, and it was very interesting for me. So I gave the exam. I became PMP certified. I became BA certified as well. And immediately, as soon as I got the certifications, management looked at me saying that, oh, I don't care, you're technical, you're PMP certified, go manage a project. Now that's how I entered into management. And I'm glad I did because I started enjoying it. And there were challenges as well in the traditional world. So Agile came to my mind. I did few more certifications and gained more knowledge. So I'm PSM certified professional Scrum Master, which is by scrum.org, and CSP, which is by Scrum Alliance, certified Scrum professional. So and afterwards, even Agile was not working very well. In terms of, there were a lot of challenges within Agile, and I wondered why, what's happening. And that's when we realized that Agile is good, but it's not enough. So we need to have scaling Agile, which means team level agility was not enough. If we want to be truly Agile, we want the whole organization to start thinking from an Agile perspective, right? And that's when SAFe came to my world. So I scaled up Agile using SAFe framework, which is scaled Agile framework for people who are new to SAFe. And in fact, I'm SPC 5. It says SPC 4. In fact, I should update it that to SPC 5 because this is the current 5.0 version of SAFe which is going on. And then with a growth mindset, I wanted to check around saying that, okay, SAFe is fantastic. It is doing very well in the market. But what else is there? Is there something which I'm missing? Are there any different strategies? Because even with SAFe, there were some companies, some groups who were struggling to be truly agile, right? And we were saying, okay, what exactly should we be doing to help the companies and organizations be truly agile? And that's when DA or disciplined agile came to my world, and And I went through the process, and I'm CDAI certified, which is Certified Disciplined Agile Instructor. So it gave me a perspective of agile, of scaling. How should we think? How should we do? How should we make decisions based on the knowledge we have? Okay. So the companies that I work for is IBM and EDS. If you have heard of EDS, Electronic Data Systems, it is no longer there because HP bought EDS, and then both companies kind of, all right. And then right now, in fact, there are a few more smaller companies I work for, but right now I'm totally independent. I work as a consultant. So I work as an enterprise agile coach and help the companies in their transformation journey from waterfall to agile to scaled agile. And of course, I do training as well. So I provide training in SAFe, in DA, in Scrum, and all the other agile certifications, and also PMP. So that's what my journey has been. It's been very interesting, and I'm glad I got different opportunities to explore these cases. So my roles, as I said, has been all these things together: technical architect, agile coach, trainer, and all those things, right? My intention out here, or my goal for this webinar towards you, is to share my experience and also share some of the learnings that I've had with SAFe and DA. That is going to be the focus area for us. Scaling is important, but we need to understand exactly how do we decide which one is better than the other. Is there a difference? Should we choose between the two? If yes, how do we choose between the two? Now, which one has more, what do you call it, more demand in the market, right? So having those things in mind, let's get into this journey. Okay. All right. So this is kind of an agenda for us. Very brief agenda. Of course, we have time constraint as well, so we will be mindful of that. So first and foremost, we need to understand enterprise agility. All right. What exactly is enterprise agility? All right. And sometimes it's also called business agility. I mean, that's actually a more common word. Business agility is more common than enterprise agility, but that's how it is, right? And then we will talk about SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework. We'll just get introduced to it. We will talk about DA, which is Disciplined Agile, and we will get introduced to it very briefly. But most importantly, we want to do comparison between SAFe and DA. And what are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? How are the strengths and weaknesses? Let's do that kind of a comparison from my perspective, all right? Of course, you will have your perspective as well. And then the big question is, can both DA and SAFe be in the same organization? Can they live under the same roof? Or do we have to choose one over the other? Right? That's the question we will talk about as well. And then the market trends, and then of course we will have Q&A session, right? Okay, so let's get into it right now. Moving on. First and foremost, business agility. You need to understand why SAFe and DA is so popular, right? There are a few other scaling frameworks like LESS, like Nexus, and all those things. That's true. But why are they so effective and so popular in today's world? That's because of this single one word, business agility. Agility at the enterprise level. So we just don't want to have agility at the team level. We need to have the whole organization to be agile. What is agile? This is what we have to talk about. Business agility itself is the ability of an organization to what? To adapt quickly to market changes, isn't it? Both internally and externally. So see, today's world, every organization, every company is a software company. Doesn't matter what domain you're in. Doesn't matter what sector you're in, private sector, public sector, government, and all those things, right? Doesn't matter. Every single organization today is an IT organization or a software company. You know why? Because of the digital transformation that's happening. And why is digital transformation very important for every company? Is because of their competition. If they don't have this digital transformation in place, the competitor will take all the customers and move further away, isn't it? And that's why you don't want to be behind. You don't want to stay back from your competition. And that's why the market keeps changing very quickly, and you need to be able to adapt to it, both internally and externally. Okay. So that's one of the key reasons business agility is extremely important. The second reason is respond rapidly and flexibly to customer demands. Now, customers nowadays have a lot of demands because they have a lot of options and choices, right? And that's why the demand is there. So if you don't meet their demands, if you don't satisfy their customers, if you don't, what do you call it, delight your customers, of course they are going to go away to someone else, the competition, right? So you don't want to have that. So you need to respond quickly and flexibility to my customer demands. The third is adapt and lead change in a productive, cost-effective way without compromising quality. Okay, quality is of essence. Nowadays what happens usually is quality is usually an afterthought, isn't it? So we will say that, you know what, let's build the product, give it to the customers. We will think about the quality later. You don't want to do that, isn't it? Because quality is extremely important. If the quality is not good, then customers will move out. So something called a built-in quality is of huge essence, of great essence, and very important for any company to have, any product to have. And that's why we have XP practices, right? Extreme programming, which is used to ensure built-in quality in many of the companies. And that's what we need to have here as well. Continuously be at a competitive advantage. All right. So we, of course, have the fear of competition. There has to be a fear of competition, because unless you have that fear of competition, you will not have the sense of urgency. If you don't have the sense of urgency, you will not change, right? And that is why we have to have that kind of a thing, right? So continuously be prepared at a continuously be at a competitive advantage, right? Now, moving on to the next one. These wonderful guys, right? Have you seen them before? No, right? They are the reason, or they are one of the reasons that you are here. All right. So who are they? They are the founders of Disciplined Agile. Yes, Scott Ambler and Mark Lyons. So these are the two guys, and they're from DA perspective. How do DA define enterprise agility? Now we understood from our angle or common sense what is business agility. Now from DA perspective, how does DA define business agility? So as DA says, business agility is critical to enterprise success. If you don't have BA, business agility, then it becomes very difficult for the enterprise to be agile and deliver value to the customer. And that is the goal, isn't it? So business agility, as DA says, right, it enables the realization of the highest value in the shorter amount of time, predictably. So customers want things really fast. So you need to do that fast, but they should be able to predict as well. So on a regular cadence, you need to deliver value to the customers. Okay, you need to do that predictably. You need to do that sustainably and with high quality. These are the key things that is required for business agility. So by working in small delivery increments, we continuously adjust to what is needed, enabling change to the right direction at no cost. Okay, and that's what the whole thing is. Business agility talks about rapidly adapting to market and environmental changes. In what ways? The two key ways, right? One is productive and cost-effective ways. So that's the key. Business agility focuses on value realized by having stakeholders identify, prioritize, and sequence the work to be done and allocate it appropriately to the product and service team. So this is what business agility. Of course, it is also called enterprise agility. So it's synonymous, right, to those two things. Okay. Now, this is what DA says. But what about SAFe? We need to understand from SAFe perspective as well, isn't it? So there you go. Do you know this guy? He's the second reason you're here. So the first reason was, of course, the DA, but this is the second reason you're here. Dean Leffingwell, he is the creator of SAFe, isn't it? So what does Dean say? So Dean says every business is a software business today, as we were talking about it some time back. Achieving a state of business agility means that the entire organization, not just development, is engaged in continually and proactively delivering innovative business solutions faster than the competition, isn't it? And that's what business agility is. So if you want to scale up, this should be the focus area every company needs to have. What is, how do we scale? Because we need business agility, we need enterprise agility. All right. So keeping that in mind, what I would do is move to the next one very, very quickly. You know what I'll do? Instead of moving to scaled agile framework directly, I will move to a section which is probably very close to your heart, which is the comparison between the two. Just hold on 1 second. Because we also, I'm trying to be agile here, by the way. All right. So, all right. All right. Do you see my screen? I'm sure you do. Okay. So this is about comparison. We will get into details of what SAFe is, what DA is, and all those things. I know there are a lot of people who are totally new to SAFe and DA. So people who are new to SAFe and DA, let me explain this very briefly, very quickly. Why is SAFe and DA so popular? Especially SAFe is extremely popular in the market today. So Agile as such is usually done at the team level, right? Only the technical folks, the team who's actually doing the work, they are Agile. They are using Scrum, they are using Kanban and all those things, right? But the key is team level agility enough to be successful, right? The answer is probably yes. But what if the work becomes complex? What if you have too many people you have to work with, right? There are too many areas the value stream flows through, right? So it's very difficult to be agile only at the team level because value doesn't follow silos. It goes through multiple stages, multiple departments, multiple units, and that's how you deliver full value to the customer, right? Software is not enough. The whole system has to be agile. And that's one of the reasons you have to scale agile, which means agile or agility at the team level is not enough. It has to be at the program level and beyond, even at the portfolio level, where the executives understand what agile is. The business, they understand what agile is. Otherwise, what happens usually, in town hall meetings and all those things, executives will come and say that, guys, you go agile. Right? What do you mean by the term you go agile, right? They play a vital role. Management and leadership, they need to know what it is that they must do, right, to be truly agile. And that's the realization is very important for management to have. And that's one of the reasons SAFe and DA has become extremely popular because it basically bridges the gap between management and the teams. Teams are agile. Usually what happens, teams are agile, but the management and the leadership, they are not. So this is where we don't say that the company is agile. We say the company is fragile, isn't it? They are not agile, they are fragile. Because there is a big gap in understanding between the teams and the business if the whole organization is not agile. Business is always thinking from the traditional way, the waterfall way, but the teams are thinking in an agile way. So there is a big disconnect between the two worlds, and that is why you're not able to deliver true value to the customers. Okay. And SAFe and DA is trying to bridge the gap between these two layers of the team and management at the top. And that is why SAFe and DA are extremely popular. Every single company, take it from me, every single company will have to scale at some point of time. It is not a choice, it is a need of the hour, right? And that's why we need to do a comparison between SAFe and DA. So let's get into it very quickly and very briefly out here, right? What is the difference between SAFe and DA? This is, I mean, there are a lot of differences, but I just wanted to specify the ones which are very, very obvious and very easy to understand. Okay. The first and foremost is SAFe is a framework, whereas BA is not a framework. It is a toolkit. Now that's a very big word, right? People usually misinterpret by these terms. Some say Agile is a framework. Some say Agile and Scrum, they are the same thing, right? Some say, Scrum is a process. Of course. So there are different ways of naming them, but every word has a meaning attached to it. Understanding the why is a very important thing. See, I believe that if you want, let me rephrase that. A lot of companies are doing Agile, they are not being Agile. You know the difference between doing Agile and being Agile, right? Doing Agile means people are just going through their normal day-to-day routine of, okay, sprint planning meeting, daily stand-up meeting, and all those things, without understanding the value behind it. They are doing it because someone asked them to do it. They are doing it because their neighbors are doing it. They are doing it because they will not get a job otherwise, right? So they are doing it for some reason which they don't believe in terms of why is that important from company's perspective, from value perspective. So doing Agile and being Agile, the difference is when you're doing Agile, you do it because someone asked you to do it. But being Agile is you believe in it. You believe that you need to be Agile. You believe that without true agility, you will not be able to deliver true value to the customer, because that's the way to go. Okay. Now, how do you move from doing Agile to being Agile? How do you shift from doing Agile to being Agile? Only one thing needs to change, and that is called mindset, right? What about the mindset? From doing Agile to being Agile, you need to focus on and understand the principles and the value statements. How many of you have gone through Agile Manifesto and have understood the principles and the value statements of Agile? Right? Think about it. If you haven't, I would 100% recommend you to please go through agilemanifesto.org, agilemanifesto.org, all right, and go through the value statements and the principles. These two are very, very important for you to understand, because once you understand the principles, see, think about it. We need principles in life, isn't it? Why do we need principles in life? We need principles in life because it provides us guidance. It helps us make the decision saying that this is right, this is wrong. So without the principles, we'll not be able to make the right decisions. Similarly, in Agile as well, you should be able to make the right decisions based on understanding the principles and value statements. All right. So what is the difference between Agile and Scrum? Let me explain that very quickly. All right. Agile itself, okay, is a set of value statements and principles. It tells you that, for example, you're driving your car, okay, from A to B. So you go by the principle of you have to go south, you have to go west, you have to go east, you have to go north. These are the principles you have in mind, and you're driving your car. You have a map in your hand, and then you're driving, looking at the map, saying that I have to go east, you have to go west. Which road do I take? Right. So the maps becomes your principle. Sorry, the direction becomes your principles. But nowadays we have GPS. So GPS uses the same principles of north, south, east, west. And GPS tells you that go straight, take a right, take a left, so that you don't have to think. GPS is thinking for you. You just have to follow what the instructions that GPS is telling you. So what the Scrum is the same as GPS. Scrum is using the same principles and value statements of Agile, but it is acting like a GPS by telling you what to do, when to do, how to do, so that you don't have to think, right? You just have to follow. It's like spoon feeding, right? Spoon feeding. How can you go wrong, right? So that is called a framework which creates a direction, and that's why Scrum is a framework and SAFe is a framework, all right? Whereas DA is not a framework. It doesn't do spoon feeding, all right? It doesn't tell you you have to do this or that and all those things. What DA tells you is it gives you some directions, right? Saying that what would you do if you're in this situation? What will you do if you're in this situation? So it will make you think, right? Based on your way of working, based on your context, right? And that is what DA does. And that's why we say it's a toolkit which you can use based on your way of working, based on your organizational needs, you can choose which direction to take, right? So that's what the toolkit is. So it's not like spoon feeding like SAFe. That's why we say SAFe is prescriptive, whereas DA is descriptive. Okay. But there are, and what does SAFe do? And why is SAFe so popular? And because SAFe gives you the fish to eat. I mean, I'm a vegetarian, but you get the idea, right? So SAFe gives you the fish to eat, but DA will teach you how to fish. That's the difference between the two. Now, why is SAFe more, and this is a fact, why is SAFe more popular than DA? All right. That's because everyone wants to eat the fish, isn't it? They don't care about fishing themselves. Everyone, okay, if you're giving me the fish, I'll eat it. And that's human nature, isn't it? That's why one of the main reasons SAFe is more popular than DA. SAFe helps companies in their transformation journey faster than DA. If a company is moving from the waterfall way of thinking to a SAFe, to an agile way of doing things, they don't have time to analyze, fall, get up, do experiments. They don't have time to do that. And that is why they follow a framework blindly. All right, because they know if I follow this framework, I should be in a decent shape to be agile in this period of time, isn't it? And that is one of the main reasons Scrum and SAFe are extremely popular, because it's extremely very well documented, prescribed, so that you just follow what it says and you will be safe, or you will be agile, right? And that is why they are very, very popular. So the fourth point says it may not cater to different organizational needs. Absolutely. So it's a quick start. A framework is a quick start for you to be agile. But every organization will have their own challenges. So you cannot say that SAFe is the answer for our needs. No, maybe not. And this is where DA strength is. DA is flexible and adjusting to different organizational needs. So based on what the organization needs, what you have, what challenges you face, you use the toolkit to make a decision saying that, oh, you know what, if I'm not comfortable with this one, I can do this, right? And this is what makes more sense for us. So you don't have to go with one way of thinking, you have different options, right? And that is what SAFe gives you, sorry, DA gives you. It gives you options, okay? And we all like options, right? Especially that's why we go to a buffet, right, to eat. We like a lot of options out there, and that's what the strength of BA is. So the fifth one is believes in creating a normalized process for everyone. That's what SAFe is. It believes that now that's an advantage of any framework. Now think about this. If you use Scrum in India or China or Europe, right, the same concept of Scrum or SAFe will be applicable in North America as well, right? Or in Australia as well, right? Or in Africa as well. So it all depends. It all means that because it has the same normalized understanding. So every framework will have the same normalized understanding. Okay, and that is why SAFe and Scrum and all the other frameworks, they believe in creating a normalized understanding or normalized process for everyone to talk the same language across boundaries. Because nowadays companies have, geographical, they are geographically distributed, isn't it? So they are in different parts of the world. So they need to have the same understanding of the process. Otherwise, there will be too much confusion. But disciplined agile, they believe in WOW, which is the way of working. We will talk about that later on if time permits. The way of working. That's what the focus is out there. Okay. SAFe, in SAFe, the tailoring is limited, but whereas in DA or disciplined agile, tailoring is the key to disciplined agile. You can adjust, you can modify because it's flexible enough. It's not prescriptive. SAFe, it says it could become method prison. You get the idea? There is a term called method prison. You can Google it out. Method prison means you're stuck with one particular method. It's very difficult to move out of that. Even if you don't agree to it, you're stuck with it. Maybe that's why, sometimes you say that we use Scrum or Kanban. But we need to understand where to use Scrum, where to use Kanban, right? Because their focus areas are different. The value that they generate is different. And some companies are fully confused that which one they need to use. That's why they combine the two and they create something called Scrumban, isn't it? Scrum and Kanban coming together. It's more like a Scrumban, and that's the idea that happens with Method Prison. But DA frameworks are great. What does DA say? Frameworks are great, but DA advocates how to improve beyond the framework. So frameworks are good starting point. Absolutely, because you'll get a kick start. You'll get a quick start in becoming agile and start using the framework. You'll start enjoying the process, but you don't want to get stuck with it for too long. You need to be flexible enough to say that, okay, now that we understand what agility is, how can we do it better? DA steps in. Okay. Helps with a quick start by spoon feeding. That's what we spoke about. And DA requires more expertise in agile for guidance, right? That's what the key is. To apply DA, you need agile coaches, you need experience, some kind of an expertise to help you move towards, improvements. Whereas in SAFe or Scrum, you don't need that level of expertise because SAFe tells you what to do. You just have to follow the book. Just in case you want to just do a quick start, follow the book. That's it. You use the recipe, you put so much salt, so much sugar, and that's it. You have something to eat. But now you want to be a chef, not just a cook. The difference between a cook and a chef is a cook will follow the recipe as is, and they can actually get the dish. But a chef will try to experiment, try to make it better. And that's where the difference is. If you want to be a cook, use SAFe. If you want to be a chef, then after using SAFe, you apply DA or directly get into DA, right? So normalized understanding throughout, which is SAFe, and that's what we already spoke about. And DA is staggered understanding of agile throughput, okay, or throughout. That's what it is, right? So this is the key comparison or difference between SAFe and DA, just to give you that context. All right. Now we need to understand the SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay. So these are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for DA for SAFe. All right. So what do we have here? All right. Just a second. Okay. So the strengths of SAFe is that it is prescriptive. People like that, isn't it? So if you have a recipe, you don't have to think, what do I cook? What do I put? How much should I put? You don't have to think. You just have to follow the recipe. So that's why it is prescriptive. It helps companies and teams transition to agile really fast. Okay. Create normalized understanding, and of course defines the clear roles and responsibilities at all levels. So SAFe, as you can see behind me, there is a SAFe board, right? So it has got multiple layers. I'm going to explain that very quickly, briefly, in some time. It has got multiple layers, and the roles and responsibilities are clearly defined out there. The weakness of SAFe is that some feel SAFe is not agile enough, right? As it needs some upfront planning. People move from waterfall or traditional way of doing things to agile because waterfall had a lot of upfront planning, isn't it? So SAFe do require some upfront planning. Yes, then only it will be really effective. But to be honest, I feel I feel it's very much valid that you need some upfront planning. Without that, it's very difficult to be truly agile, right? So I would say that, but some feel that SAFe is not agile enough, okay? And it also seems to have a top-down approach like waterfall, but that's okay. I feel that's my personal opinion, that every requirement comes from the top and it is delivered from the bottom. That's why we call it the V model, okay? Prescriptive and less flexible, and that is what some companies are struggling with. There are a few companies I've seen through my career that they are using SAFe, but they are still struggling because some people, they have the buy-in that SAFe is the right way to go. Others, they say, no, SAFe is not the answer. This is not how we should be doing the work. So they don't have the buy-in, but they are forced into it because the company says that we have to use SAFe as a framework, isn't it? So this is why sometimes it is less flexible, and the team members, some of the team members becomes a bit to, what do you say, caught up in that particular moment. All right, and they start resisting. Okay. Of course, the opportunity is extremely popular in the market. In fact, they lead by a large margin. So SAFe is one of the most popular leading, scaling frameworks in the market today. If you have to be SAFe certified, you have to have SAFe knowledge. It will really open up your opportunities with a lot of companies, especially interviews and all those things. SAFe is extremely popular because it is effective. Many companies are still trying to transition to Agile. SAFe is best suited to them with their transition. And that is one of the reasons that many companies want to recruit people with SAFe certifications and all those things, right? Threats, they don't have any threats as such, but people would say that DA is slowly catching up. That's because recently in August, I believe, August or September, PMI, PMI, PMP certification by PMI. So PMI bought Disciplined Agile in August or September. Now, because of that, now people are, recognizing DA as a very important factor and a very important entity, and that can become a threat to SAFe. Okay. Now, what does DA say? DA says this: choosing your wow. What is wow? Wow is way of working. Way of working. All right, that's what it is. So this is the toolkit. I don't want to spend too much time out here, but just want to give you an example. When I say DA is not a framework, it's a toolkit. What I mean is this: it gives you various options. If you're in this situation, what are the options? How should you start? How should you continue? How should you finish? These are some of the options that DA gives, which other frameworks don't, right? Like SAFe, they don't. But DA gives you options for based on your context, based on your way of working. So this is a very good example to understand what do you need to think through? How do you need to think through, right? So, and this is what it is. You need to think about different scenarios. I'm not going to get into details out here, but what DA says is that move out of your method prison. So don't have method prison in place. Don't be in that prison which you are stuck in for too long, which may or may not work for you. You have to break the prison. You have to get out of it. You need to experiment and try something that works for you. Don't do it because someone asked you to do it. Do it because it makes sense, right? Question the why behind it. And this is where DA talks about GCI, which is guided continuous improvement. All right. When you talk about Agile, this is more like a J curve. You probably have heard this, right? So any change, the initial thing is the performance goes down because it's a change, right? People are learning. They're trying to be mindful. How can we make the change happen? So the performance goes down, but then once they realize the value, once they get used to the change or way of doing the work, that's when the curve starts moving up, right? And it starts moving up. This is when Agile is true, when the transition happens. This is when the frameworks are there. When you use the framework, this is the first level, moving. I believe you can see my mouse moving, right? When people use a framework to be Agile, the curve starts going up, fantastic. But after some time, what happens? It becomes flat. So when you are adopting a framework method or a prescriptive method or framework, this is what happens. And this is where you say that use the framework. What DA says is use the framework. Absolutely, yes. But you need to think out of the method prism. You need to think something outside the framework. And that's what guided continuous improvement is. And how can you do that? By having, something like this. When you think about the various options you have based on your company's needs, and this is how you need something like a process or a toolkit which is flexible, which will help you provide the guidance further up, right? This is very, very, effective, very deep, and very important for your understanding. And then we need to understand the SWOT for DA as well, isn't it? So DA has their own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So let's look at this one. So the strength is guidance at the inception and transition phases. Now, what happens is there are three phases. I didn't talk about it because we will talk about it very quickly. We have some time left. So there are three stages: inception, construction, and transition. All right. Scrum and other frameworks, they focus at the construction phase, how to do the work. Construction means how to do the work. But DA, they put a lot of focus on the inception phase where you do the architectural design, and also in the transition phase where DevOps comes into play. All right. So that's where their focus is quite a lot. And DA provides different life cycles. There are four in particular. There are four different life cycles. We will talk about that very quickly. And that's what their strength is. So you can choose from the life cycle that works for you. SAFe doesn't do that. Okay. But SAFe has its own strengths, as you already saw. The weaknesses for DA is it provides more of a guidance rather than defining the steps. You know, it gives you that this is what you would want to do. But companies who are new to Agile, they will struggle because they will make more mistakes, and then they will not have the buy-in that Agile is the way of going. You know, that's why prescriptive way of doing things like SAFe works very well when the company is new to Agile, when they are doing the transition. All right. The roles and responsibilities are sometimes confusing in DA because sometimes they will say that a Scrum Master can also be an architect, or sometimes they can also work as a product owner. So there is something slight confusion. Whereas in SAFe, it is crystal clear, very well defined what are the roles and responsibilities. And also, it does not help grow with other, it does not help groups who are new to Agile transition. So that's what we were talking about, right? Sometime back. What about the opportunities? After PMI's acquisition, it is showing a lot more promise. DA Flex. All right, there is something new word that comes into play, right? DA Flex. So DA is one company, Flex is another company. PMI acquired both companies together, and that's why it is now called DA Flex. So DA and Flex is a good combination to have for scaling. Many companies are struggling with Scrum and SAFe frameworks. DA can help build upon them. So it's not that frameworks are bad, absolutely not. In fact, framework is the first way of any company to go. But they cannot get stuck with a framework. So DA can help build upon the frameworks by creating more flexibility with companies' way of working. And what are the threats? SAFe is the biggest competitor and have a huge market share in space, and not as well organized as SAFe. And that's what the problem with DA is, right? If you send an email, it takes a lot of time to get a response sometimes from DA. So that is why it is not as well organized. It is not as automated in terms of process within DA. And that is why that is something that I've noticed between these. All right, now it's what you have. We have 10 minutes to go, but I know we need some time for Q&A. We may not have as much time for Q&A, but you have to ask me all the questions and we will answer it later on. But let's make use of this very, very quickly. All right, at least for next 5 minutes. What is SAFe? This is what SAFe is. When you talk about scaled agile framework, now that you understand the difference, the comparison between the two, this is what it is. Look at this big picture. Okay, this is what we were talking about. SAFe has got 3 layers, as you can see, right? It has got essential, it has got large solution, it has got portfolio. These are the 3 layers it has, right? And the roles and responsibilities I was talking about, clearly it has the 3 roles and responsibilities at every stage, every level, right? But what about DA? Now let's do a comparison with DA. DA also has something called steps, and layers. But these layers are called process blades. Okay. So instead of using circles and all those things, they are using something like a blade, which means you can change the blade whenever you want to sharpen your skills, isn't it? That's the idea out here. That's why they use the word blades here. Every hexagon that we can see, every hexagon represents what they call a process blade. That's what it is. Now think of it like a process area, but with advice for where to start, and more importantly, how to evolve your way of working, your wow. And that's what it says, where you want to start at every stage and how do you evolve all the way to the end. And that's what the beauty of DA is. Okay. These are three groups of people. We said we understand, we already spoke about Scott Ambler, who is on the top. And then in the middle, we have Mark Lines. They are all the founders of DA. And at the bottom, this guy, his name is Al Shalloway. All right, Al Shalloway. Al Shalloway is the creator of Flex. What is Flex? Flex is an acronym called Flow of Enterprise Transformation. And that is what Flex is. Flow of Enterprise Transformation. So disciplined Agile is an umbrella over all the Agile DA. DA makes Agile landscape and when to use what. It makes it very clear. There are so many things in place. All right. It tries to make it very clear in terms of enabling the teams to choose their way of working. Enabling the teams to choose their way of working. So DA is described in 4 views. The first one is people. The second is flow. The third is practice. And fourth, where is the fourth one? The fourth is a combination of all them. It's a mindset. For you to move from doing Agile to being Agile, what should change is the mindset. And that's what it is, right out here, as you can see. So the mindset builds on the foundation of lean and Agile to address enterprise agility or realities, right? People, the roles and responsibilities and team structures are defined, and the flow captures the dynamic aspects of processes via life cycle diagrams and a workflow diagrams. That's what flow is. There are 2 diagrams, life cycle diagrams. There are 4 life cycles and workflow diagrams, right? And practices, which is required in terms of goal diagrams. I gave you an example of a goal diagram, right? Some strategies, techniques, how based on your way of working, what should be the options. So as I said, there are 4 life cycles. These are the 4 life cycles. Agile, continuous delivery Agile, and then lean, continuous delivery lean. Then you have exploratory and program. So based on your maturity level or company's maturity level of Agile, you will decide where you want to go. Agile is the first way of going because it is easy to implement. But once you have more and more experience, that's when you can get more into continuous delivery lean and so on. And that's where DevOps play a very, very critical part. So as I mentioned, there are 3 structures: inception, construction, and transition. So the focus area usually for DA is inception and transition, because construction is pretty common. Everyone does Scrum, everyone uses the framework, so that is quite common. But the lean governance is very well defined and designed out here. All right. So these are the milestones. These are the fundamental questions you need to ask at every stage. And this is very powerful. If you think about it, it's very powerful out here. Right. And DA Flex, this is what I was talking about. They have to build a flow of work, a flexible flow of work all the way to the end, right? Enterprise transformation, if an enterprise have to do transformation, it has to be flexible. At the same time, it has to be lean, right? And that's what this is all about. It goes through multiple stages. It has multiple areas, and you can apply DA at every stage of this process, of this transformation journey, to say what needs to happen when, which process blade you need to use at what stage, right? So that's what we have here. Okay. By the way, probably you noticed something called MBIs at the bottom here. MBI means minimum business increment. And that's what the value is to be delivered. Okay. Then we have principles. SAFe has got 10 principles, and DA, they have 7 principles. All right. So this is what you need to be aware of. Of course, you also need to understand that principles are the foundation of any change. Without the principles, you will not know why are you doing it. What is the benefit? So that is why you need to be aware of the principles, both in SAFe and in DA, of course, in Agile as well. All right, you'll not have the buy-in. And what about the roles and responsibilities, right? SAFe clearly defines the roles and responsibilities. They call it the Agile team, which means combination of the doers, the Scrum Masters, and the product owners combining together. right? And at the program level, you have got many more roles and responsibilities like release plan engineer, they are the chief scrum masters, right? And then you have the product management system architects, and of course the supporting teams, which is system teams, and of course the key stakeholders are the business. So they are all part of a concept in SAFe called Agile Release Train. All right, it's very important concept of Agile Release Train. Whereas BA roles, this is how it is well defined, right? So the teams, agile teams, the enterprise roles, this is how it is defined. You know, team lead, lean scrum masters, project owner, and so on and so forth. This is the agile team roles, whereas in enterprise, they have these roles clearly defined. So at the end of the day, in conclusion to my thoughts out here, it doesn't matter what designation you have. It's important that you understand your roles and responsibilities and then understand exactly where you fit in, either in SAFe world or in the agile world. Okay. All right. With that, I know I've been talking for a while. I know there are quite a few questions, and this is a good time for you to ask questions. I know we just have 2 minutes more left, but I'm here. I'm here if you have any questions. All right. First and foremost, thank you for listening and thank you for joining in. I hope it was useful for you. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask me. I don't know if you can unmute yourself or you can just type in your questions, and then you can connect me on LinkedIn. Of course, there are multiple certifications in all these things. SAFe has a list of certifications. DA have their own list of certifications. So any questions, anything, we can reach out, and we will be more than happy to guide you through anything that you need. All right. So just being mindful of the time. All right. Perfect. Thank you, Oberoi. Thanks for your feedback. So there is a question from Bhaskar. In this faster, prescriptive better than descriptive. I think prescriptive is better to give a quick start, and everyone wants a quick start, right? Today, nowadays, Bhaskar, and that is the problem out here. Sometimes you're too stuck in the prescriptive way of thinking. The companies are struggling because they don't think outside the method prism. They are stuck with that, and that is why DA helps you move outside the method prism and get something better. But prescriptive way is a good start. All right, great. Some say DA is just old wine in new bottle. Yeah. So that is important, right? Because PMI recently bought DA, and now it's a new bottle. But old wine also tastes good, right? It's good for health. So sometimes you need a good marketing partner to showcase why it is very important. That's why it is true. There is another question by Suresh. How must we plan our career ahead? Like I'm preparing for PMP now. Okay, and then, okay, what are the priority levels? Okay, I'll be very honest with you. Okay, I'm not sure if everyone agrees with you. Oh, sorry, with me. PMP is a fantastic certification, all right? Because for me, I'm PMP certified. It provided me a lot of foundation in moving towards Agile, okay? But understand why you want to do PMP, okay? Understanding the why. Don't do PMP because everyone is doing it. Because do understand the reason for you to do PMP, and that's when you get into it. Otherwise, you can directly get into Agile and SAFe and DA. That should really work well. Okay. Can we adopt in manufacturing? Of course, absolutely. That's why I said every domain is sorry, every domain, every industry nowadays is a software industry. See, it doesn't matter which industry you're working in. Agile is nothing but common sense. You can use that anywhere, IT, non-IT, absolutely. In fact, you know what? I use Agile at home. Yes, absolutely. I use Kanban at home. It's very interesting to have that. So try it out. You'll be surprised how much you can achieve. The next question, Babu, you have is which method is good for developers? So again, have the basic foundation of Scrum first and foremost. Understand what Scrum is, how you want to deliver value to the customer. So that is the key for developers. Okay, a Scrum. That's why there is something called Scrum for developers as well. And there is something called Safe for Teams. Safe for Teams means teams need to understand what is their roles and responsibilities. So even if you are in the scaled agile world, you still are at the team level. You play a vital role, and that is why that's the way to go. Okay, understanding. So, all right. So safe and what else is the question? Did I miss any other questions? Let me go up. How must we plan our career ahead? Like okay, that is done. Perfect. All right. And okay, will we get PDUs for this? Absolutely. I think ProThoughts will be able to give you more details on that about the PDUs. But more than the PDUs, the important question is, were there good takeaways for you? PDUs are there. Focus on the outcomes, not the outputs. PDU is an output. All right. Where can I study more about VFlex? Okay, and the PMI's website, you should be able to get more details on VFlex. So disciplineagile.com or even the PMI website, you should have more details on VFlex. All right, could you help with a brief explanation on how to all the points under, sorry, what is this? Could you please help with a brief explanation of how to all the points listed under DA? All right, that will take some more time, or not? So we can do that another session for sure. Okay, perfect. Great. Okay, another website for more information. All right, for net objectives. Yeah, see, as Saurabh mentioned, even that is there. All right. Okay, could you get the slide deck on? I will try and see what can I do. Usually I don't share this, but let me see what can I do. Okay, Mangesh, we'll work with ProThoughts on that. All right, we don't. All right, good. Sort of good to know. We don't share the decks. Now, first and foremost, thanks to ProThoughts for arranging this. But at the end of the day, any questions, anytime, you can connect with any of us, and we'll be more than happy to help you with more guidance. All right. All right. Thank you again for your time and for spending time with us, and hope this was useful. Have a great and wonderful weekend. See you later. Until next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.